Muhammad Yunus hits out at India over Hasina's. No official response from India on Hasina's extradition request. Yunus says that Hasina will be tried for crimes against humanity. Tariffs to Golden Dome. Donald Trump makes big promises in his first ever speech to Congress. America is back is what Donald Trump hails his policies in the longest ever speech by an American president to Congress. US President doubles down on India tariff threat, says reciprocal tariffs will kick in from the 2nd of April. Now, can India avert what may end up possibly becoming a very expensive tariff war with the US? Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar is in the UK meeting Prime Minister Keir Starmer. In fact, both are set to discuss free trade agreement talks between India and the UK, along with the latest developments unfolding in Ukraine. All right, the first story that we are tracking on India Global, the lead story, it's coming in from Bangladesh. 6 months it's been, over 6 months since the Yunus government came to power. Frustration is now growing within the reform committees that were appointed by the interim chief because those reports have been submitted. Remember, when Yunus came to power, the first thing he said was that every institution of the government needs to be reformed because he felt that it had been taken over by Sheikh Hasina's government and needed to be fixed, needed to be reformed before Bangladesh can return to normalcy, return to democracy. Now, patiently, people of Bangladesh have been waiting for over 6 months now. Reform commissions were set up. Those reports have come in. One, in fact, came in the month of December. One has come in the month of January. But guess what? No action has been taken. Officials are claiming that the government is unwilling to, in fact, take action as per those reports. This comes in even as Bangladesh interim government's Chief Adviser Muhammad Yunus has only one tune to sing, and that is the Hasina tune. He has once again spoken out and said that Dhaka had sent formal letters to India seeking deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's extradition. No formal request has come so far. In an interview, he said that Hasina will stand trial for crimes against humanity, and the state-run news agency reported that. The fact is, before I play out the Muhammad Yunus soundbite, viewers, it is okay to talk about Sheikh Hasina's fate, but it's not okay to only talk about that at the cost of bringing your country back to transition. And that's what it's beginning to look like. Before we debate what's the future like for Bangladesh, listen in to what Muhammad Yunus had to say.
She will stand trial, there's no doubt about that, because all the evidences are here. But she's not physically present in Bangladesh. So the question is, can we make her present in Bangladesh? That depends on India and also international law guiding all this system, how it works. So we'll be already asked India to hand over Hasina to Bangladesh to face the trial. So the question of trial is not if it will be happening in absentia or in her presence. It will be taking place, not only her, and all the people who were associated with her family members, her clans, her associates, and all the oligarchs, people who promoted her, supported her, made her the way she is.
Okay, so the question that we are asking today on India Global, is Muhammad Yunus reluctant on reform? Is he totally focused on Sheikh Hasina? And why is it that it's now looking like that he's focused on witch hunt rather than reform? The other question that we're asking on India Global, that what really is Muhammad Yunus's roadmap for reform? Because two of those commissions, their reports have been submitted, those reports are lying and no action has been taken. So what really is his roadmap? And most importantly, will he actually deliver on the promises of reform, or was it just another bogey to delay the democratic transition that needs to take place for Bangladesh? And lastly, without reform, does this mean that the election timeline, the goalpost of that has shifted once again? That's another question that we're posing on India Global today. Mubin Shatman Khan is joining me from Bangladesh, and we have Ambassador Anil Trigunath also on the broadcast. Ambassador Trigunath, let me start with you, and we'll try and keep our answers short so that we try and cover as much ground as possible. Ambassador Trigunath, I said this at the beginning of the broadcast, which is it's okay to talk about Hasina as long as you're focused on bringing Bangladesh back to normalcy. But what's not okay is Reform Commission reports lying and no action being taken, while Muhammad Yunus continues to just keep talking about Sheikh Hasina all the time.
Exactly, Gaurie. The thing is that he's been buying time. He set up these committees that have submitted the report in January, and the action should have been initiated. Instead, we have seen the situation in Bangladesh, about 10% inflation, reducing investments, foreign exchange crises, and all other kinds of problems are happening. And that is why the people who really wanted a change, wanted the revolution to succeed, are getting disenchanted by that. We have seen that a new party has been created there by the students who have come in his support and resigning from the post, and they're delaying the elections or a democratic transition, obviously, is one of the tactics that is being employed, for which you have the other kind of requests which are extraneous, not even extraneous, but which are actually distracting the attention, which are coming out in this, bashing India, doing those kind of things. And that doesn't help much. India has stood with them. India has stood with government in transition and provided every possible assistance that is necessary. At the same time, they have to see about the countries.
Yes.
Because the way it is going down is something that needs to be worried.
Exactly. Mr. Khan, come in on that people of Bangladesh, they need those reforms that have been promised to them for the last 6 months. Where's the progress there?
Right. I think there's some, I think there's a little bit of confusion regarding what those reforms are and elections. I see that the news feeds, and while all of you are speaking, you're conflating the two. Most of the reform proposals, if you look into them, they're actually long term, right? There are some recommendations that are short term, but most of them have a range of, 4 or 5 years and all that. One of the reasons the focus has shifted away from reforms is because the political parties, at least the major one like BNP, is demanding an election. And there's also public sentiment towards election, and there's even international talk, like India is also asking about elections in Bangladesh. So one of the reasons the reforms have sort of taken a backseat, not fully. I know the report that you've referenced actually talks about only 2 committees. There are 6 other committees as well. But the main reason is Yunus has set sort of a, template on when the elections will be. It'll either be by December of this year or June of next year. And if he sticks to that date, then, there isn't much scope to do long-term reforms. But I just want to add a little bit.
Yeah.
That he did mention he is going to have a meeting with political parties in Bangladesh. And he will only go ahead with the reforms if they sort of agree with it.
Okay.
And whoever doesn't agree with any reform, he has promised to put it out on a website.
Fair enough.
To point out to the Bangladeshi people.
This is not this is not about the reforms per se, but I go back to the first statement that you said, that most of those reforms may be long-term in nature, may not go through, and the Yunus government may in fact go for polls because everybody's asking for it. Which brings me to ask you that why do the entire process and delay the electoral process in the name of reforms if it was quite clear that this may take longer than a year? So it should have been that start the election process and continue the reform agenda parallelly. Why do it one after the other?
I don't know if they did it one after the other. I think what happened was right after August, there was a lot of strong demands for reform, right? Because there was this sense that, Hasina had destroyed the Bangladeshi institutions, and these institutions need to be fixed. And there was a lot of public support for that, even from the political parties. I think what has happened over the last 6 months is because of the economic situation, because of the law and order situation, it's a little unstable, and people are getting and see. So the general direction has moved towards having elections earlier, which is why reforms have sort of taken a backseat. But the reforms were popular, and they still are. And even BNP or the major political parties are talking about some of the reforms. So at least,
Okay.
it is expected that before election, Yunus will start off some of the reforms, and whoever comes next, if they have a buy-in into those reform proposals, they'll take it forward.
Ambassador Trigunath, come in there on the fact that some of these reforms may actually now be long-term in nature, even as that the election process may probably start before some of these reforms get going, which brings me to ask, why wait for so long?
Well, they don't have to wait for so long. In any case, there are no reforms that are immediate. All reforms are current, they're ongoing reforms, and they will be implemented in due course and will be implemented possibly better by an elected government than by a transition government. That is not quite possible always, and acceptability is always doubted in that sense, or the intent as well. But it is good that they have set up those 6 committees. They have submitted the reports. There are constitutional reforms that are also there. Now, if you are going to change all that, now you don't have the legal mandate to do so, or constitutional mandate to do so. Therefore, it is perhaps good for Bangladesh to go through the electoral process as soon as possible, announce it so that the public empathy and trust in the interim government increases. Because see, you are not able to deliver on the day-to-day requirements, you are not able to bring down the prices, you are not able to do many things there. So there is a distrust that is growing on. Army has been telling them regularly, so are the student. So many of the reports one reads as what for it was. I mean, that happens in every country wherever these kind of violent revolutions, so-called revolutions take place. So you always have people who are dissatisfied because they think that there is going to be a change tomorrow itself. The expectations are very high.
Indeed.
When they think that a leader who was like running it our way or whichever way, so obviously they want that things are changing, so tomorrow will be the golden day for us. But that doesn't seem to happen. That is normally not happening in any country in the world. It is not happening in Bangladesh. But he prolongs, that means he loses his credibility internationally as well as with the people of Bangladesh.
Mr. Khan, is it what it's turning out to be, that Muhammad Yunus's credibility may be on the line if he delays elections?
I mean, he's been very firm on that, right? I know you hear certain voices about people saying elections might be delayed. There are some people in and around him who are trying to say that, the youth political party and all that, but he's been very strict on the deadline he set, right? And at least his official spokesperson has constantly reiterated that, which is why he sort of still holds a position, even though there are some doubts about how the government is being run. There's criticism about, say, for example, the Home Minister and all that. Yunus's reputation or Yunus's credibility has so far been intact, largely because he's actually been very clear about elections or how long he wants to stay and all that, right? So I don't think it's specific to Yunus is not the issue, but you could, in the larger frame, you could say there are elements within, in and around the government who would like to stay on longer.
Leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking out the time, joining me on this edition of India Global. Viewers, well, the bottom line on this is that just when one thought Bangladesh's return to democracy is on the horizon, Dhaka's journey seems to have hit yet another snag. Well, because Yunus administration has only one agenda, it's most definitely not to fix Bangladesh or to ensure economic recovery, but of course to keep talking about Hasina extradition. It is in fact looking more like a witch hunt than an earnest request by a government to ensure that justice takes place. Remember, inflation is skyrocketing. Global investors are on the tenterhooks. In fact, they've made it clear that there will be no investments until a full government comes to power. Not only this, there are reform commissions that are up in arms. The fact is, Bangladesh sought for a change. It's unclear whether those student protests really wanted the kind of violence that Bangladesh saw. But one thing is clear, young people of Bangladesh want change. And change will happen when elections will take place. We don't want them to get disenchanted. Muhammad Yunus doesn't want them to get disenchanted. A violent country on the pretty much on the boil needs its young people being full of hope and not disenchanted. On that note, a quick break. We come back with more on the other side.
The UK's first human heart transplant has been completed, supported by the British Heart Foundation.
We were a noisy generation, but it might be something quiet we do that becomes our greatest legacy. Leave a gift in your will to the British Heart Foundation and fund groundbreaking research that could help save millions of lives. Search BHF Wills.
Sign up and start saving with Quidco today. Get cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco.
Few of us ever look after our ears as much as we should, even when hearing loss can interfere with everything that makes us, us. Relationships, passions, independence. But you can keep living the life you love. All the laughing, dancing, and connecting. When you personalize your hearing care with Hidden Hearing, discover how it's possible to keep being you. Hidden Hearing. Your hearing is our expertise.
Ever since she was a little girl, Hope loved to braid. Her family was poor, and her parents couldn't afford to send her to school. Before she knew it, Hope was a parent herself. Struggling to feed her family, she needed to come up with an idea. Ever since Emma was a little girl, she loved mum and daughter time with her mother, Barbara. This was their monthly treat, and Barbara would usually splurge a bit on the latest shampoo with sciencey-sounding additives. But that day, Emma had a much better idea. Barbara agreed lending £15 to Hope certainly would be a worthwhile investment. Soon enough, Hope had established herself. With profits from her business, Hope could afford to feed her children and even send them to school. In fact, the salon did so well that before long, Barbara got her investment back. So she could withdraw her £15, perhaps get some plumping serum, or she could lend it to Jose, whose business plan also looked pretty good. Visit lendwithcare.org today and change someone's life with a loan.
Find a pet-friendly Italian restaurant with outdoor seating nearby and text it to Luca.
Find it real quick. Send it to the click. Well, this is sick.
Get your Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra with Galaxy AI and save up to £744 when you trade in a Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra on 3. Life needs a big network.
This is India Global. We turn our attention now to External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar, who is in the UK. He's met British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and the two countries agreed to boost £41 billion of trading relationship and welcomed the opening of 2 new Indian consulates in Belfast and Manchester. The visit is set to enhance economic growth and support further regional Indian investments in the UK. They also discussed Ukraine war. This comes as Starmer hosted an emergency meeting of European leaders in support of Ukraine. It was called the Coalition of the Willing, and its President Zelensky after the latter's public showdown with President Trump last week. In fact, my colleague Radhika joins me live from London to really give me a lowdown on how things are unfolding there. Radhika, it looks like Dr. Jaishankar has had a very hectic last couple of days there. Talk to us about what it's looking like, what's on the agenda next.
It's in fact 6 days that Dr. Jaishankar is going to be here in the UK. Yesterday, as you rightly alluded, he had a meeting with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom at 10 Downing, Keir Starmer, and discussing a lot of aspects, including the key topic of the free trade agreement, which India and the UK notoriously have exchanged 18 rounds of conversations during the erstwhile government. But now it seems there is new steam in this, and new interest certainly from the Indian side to try and finalize this free trade agreement. So as you said, there are meetings, there are inauguration of consulates that Dr. Jaishankar is going to be doing here in the UK, one in Manchester, one in Belfast. And of course, he has an engagement in Lancashire, which is another England county. But today is going to be a very significant day. At this very respected think tank called Chatham House in London, Dr. Jaishankar is going to be having some sort of a fireside chat where he's going to be discussing the topic of the role and the rise of India. This is clearly a move by the Indian government to try and project India and its economy as one which is very promising to partner with, and clearly keeping not just bilateral but also economic and trade ideas in mind. Dr. Jaishankar is going to also have meetings with the Home Secretary, which is Erwet Cooper, as well as the Business and Trade Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, who was in fact in India last month in February 2025 to try and speeden up or at least finalize that free trade agreement. The new interest that India has, it always has been very interested in UK as a partner, not just for bilateral ties or for economic trade or for trade opportunities, but also because Europe and the EU is now a very promising bloc for India to form a trade partnership with, alongside the UK, even as Brexit happened in 2016. And then, of course, the formal exit did take place. Trading with India for the UK is very important. Same for India as well, considering India is the 12th biggest exporter to or trade partner to the UK.
All right, Radhika, we leave it there. Appreciate you giving us that detailed update on what all we can expect from that visit. Shifting focus now, a day after reports reveal that Russia has agreed to assist President Trump's administration to broker ties with Iran on issues including the nuclear program and its support for regional anti-US proxies. The Kremlin said that future talks between Russia and the US would include discussions on Iran's nuclear program, a subject it said it had touched upon in an initial round of conversation between the US and Russia earlier this month. Listen in.
Российская позиция заключается в том, что вот эту проблему ядерного досье Ирана нужно решать исключительно мирными политико-дипломатическими средствами. Мы считаем, что есть для этого потенциал, поскольку Иран – это наш союзник, наш партнер, страна, с которой мы развиваем комплексные, взаимовыгодные и взаимоуважительные отношения, то Россия готова сделать для этого все возможное. Соединенным Штатам об этом известно.
Yeah, certainly shows the kind of confidence now Russia as a state enjoys with United States, because earlier it has been facing sanctions from West and United States, who's leading that pack for imposing sanctions on Russia to diplomatically isolate it. But in the last 2-3 weeks since Donald Trump has assumed the office of president there, and the way he has treated both Zelensky and Ukraine as well as Russia and Putin on the Russia-Ukraine war, he has clarified his stand many a times now by criticizing Ukraine more than Russia. And perhaps there are back channel talks which are going on, because we had also seen prisoner swap between Ukraine and Russia, Russia and United States. Some long time held US citizen was released by Russia, and similar gesture was reciprocated by United States as well. But Russia now boldly announcing that perhaps it is in a position to mediate between Iran and United States at a time when US and Donald Trump has announced maximum pressure campaign or maximum pressure sanctions on Iran, certainly shows that lot of things are moving very fast. Geopolitical shifting is moving very fast, and it is a big worry for Israel, because Israel is all the time for the last 1.5 months, if you hear the statement of Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has been saying that how Donald Trump has been giving them all the arms shipment, which was paused by the previous Biden administration, and how Mr. Trump has been the best president so far, the most friendly president so far in the White House for Israel. But now, with this kind of mediation, if it is happening the way Russia has predicted it, it's certainly a big worry for Israel, because Israel has been asking United States for a very long time to launch attacks on Iran on Israel's behalf, or to say that Israel wants US to fight its war against Iran, which somehow United States is not interested in, as Mr. Trump also said that he's not going to fight everybody else's war, he's there to stop the war. Amid all this, Russia now playing the mediation between Israel, between the United States and Iran is a big shift.
Okay, turning attention now to the condition of Neelam Shinde, the 35-year-old woman who is in coma in a California hospital after a road accident. Neelam's family told NDTV that a 6-hour surgery has been conducted and another surgery could be on the anvil. It's based on the MRI that next steps will have to be taken. Radhika Ramaswamy, my colleague in Mumbai, who's been following this story, we'll try and connect with her in just a bit. But let's quickly now also get in an update as far as NASA's two astronauts are concerned. Mr. Wilmore and Sunita Williams, just a few weeks away from finally returning to Earth after 9 months in space. Both have to wait until their replacements arrive at the International Space Station next week before they can check out later this month. They'll be joined on their SpaceX ride home by two astronauts who launched by themselves in September alongside two empty seats. Retired Navy captains and repeat space flyers have insisted over the months that they are healthy and committed to the mission as long as it takes. Quick break. We come back on the other side with lots more. Stay with us.
When you paint by feeling, you can come home to a blooming good day. Change starts here. Dulux.
Today, if you can think it, you can make it. But the same goes for cybercriminals. Because with AI, they can invade your online privacy, scam you, and bombard you with real-looking threats. That's why our VPN combines AI-powered scam detection with advanced online privacy protection. So you can live your best digital life. Norton VPN Ultimate. Advanced tech for advanced threats.
I don't know why anyone comes here. It's just so quiet.
Quiet your my mouth with extra gum. Chew good.
Hello, Derek.
Hi, Rose. How are you?
Just back from a funeral.
Oh, dear.
Yes, but it was a lovely service. And her over-50s plan helped pay for it.
I've got a couple of those.
Really?
Yes, with Sun Life. The premiums never go up and they pay every claim.
Oh, yes, Sun Life.
It's affordable too.
Oh, have you got their number?
I have. They're ever so friendly.
Help protect your family with Sun Life's 5-star rated over-50s plan. Call us today and get a free £140 gift card.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Welcome back. You're watching India Global. We turn our attention now to US President Donald Trump, who delivered a record-breaking address to Congress this morning. In fact, his first since returning to the White House. It's morning for us viewers, but late night, of course, in the US. Trump's remarks followed a series of sweeping policy moves that were on tariffs, on immigration, on Ukraine, and you name it, as well as on the federal workforce reductions. He began his address by stating that his government has accomplished more in 43 days than what administrations managed to achieve in 4 years or even 8. Trump said that he has brought back free speech to the US, cited several of the executive orders He, in fact, also mentioned the order to ban men from playing in women's sports and to officially recognize that there are only two genders as far as American government is concerned. In fact, it was blitzkrieg when it came to Trump's speech. Everything and anything he covered, from domestic politics to international focus of his government. Take a look at this report that does a deep dive into what you need to know about that 2-hour-long speech.
We don't want it. Wokeness is trouble. Wokeness is bad. It's gone. It's gone.
With a hopeful note, but it immediately devolved into chaos.
We have been ripped off for decades by nearly every country on earth, and we have ended weaponized government where, as an example, a sitting president is allowed to viciously prosecute his political opponent, like me. I declared a national emergency on our southern border, and I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country. My administration will reclaim power from this unaccountable bureaucracy.
Unusually, Trump name-checked Joe Biden, calling him the worst president in history.
Joe Biden, the worst president in American history.
But it's crucial to note that while post-pandemic inflation was high worldwide during the previous administration in the U.S., the U.S. had the strongest economic recovery in the world at the end of the Biden administration, with a booming stock market, a decrease in inflation, and strong job creation.
India charges us auto tariffs.
Trump slammed India, among others, for having trade policies that are unfair to Americans.
On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in. And whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them.
He also touted February's stunning drop in border crossings and his immigration crackdown.
Within hours of taking the oath of office, I declared a national emergency on our southern border, and I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country. And what a job they've done. As a result, illegal border crossings last month were by far the lowest ever recorded, ever.
However, in the U.S., public monthly data only goes back to the year 2000, and border crossings have been falling over the past year after rising to record highs in 2023. Meanwhile, several dozen House Democrats were holding up small circular signs during this joint address in protest, reading Musk's deals, save Medicaid, and protect veterans. As Donald Trump claims to have reignited America's momentum and pride, his bold actions continue to shake Washington and the world. With a wrecking ball approach that dismantles long-standing policies and pacts, the question remains, is this the revolution America needs or the chaos it fears? Only time will tell. Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV.
All right, Chris joins me from, he's from Voice of America, joins me live to talk about, well, first and foremost, Chris, it was a 2-hour-long speech, the longest by a president. Let me start by asking you, what do you think this means in terms of laying the roadmap for his future policies? After all, it's been less than 2 months in his presidency so far.
Well, it's sending a message to his critics and his supporters that Trump is going to do things his way, and he's not going to care who stands in his way, whether it's his opponents, the court, or members of Congress, the Democratic Congress, which is not in power right now. Trump's GOP controls both houses of Congress. Now, the president spoke for nearly 2 hours, exactly 1 hour and 39 minutes, which was the longest speech from a president to a joint session of Congress. And again, he said his administration has accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations have accomplished in 4 years or 8 years.
Yes.
To date, Trump has signed 80 executive orders, several of which are being challenged in court. And immigration was a big theme in this speech. He touted his declaration of a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border,
Yes.
and he said his administration has launched the most sweeping border and immigration crackdown in American history. He also defended Elon Musk's efforts in the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which has been behind tens of thousands of layoffs of government workers and other
Yes.
deep cuts throughout the federal government.
Indeed. And, as far as the protest that came in from the Democratic quarters on the floor of the House, it was quite significant, whether from wearing pink jackets to Al Green being thrown out. It was quite a show, wasn't it? It also reflects the kind of divide that is there in terms of the political opinion in America.
Right. And, it was on display for the whole world to see that this speech was really being given to two different audiences, and that's reflective of the polarization here in the U.S. Just a few minutes into his address, Trump was interrupted by jeering from the House floor, which prompted House Speaker Mike Johnson to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to throw out Democratic Representative Al Green of Texas, who was shouting, "You have no mandate," when he was escorted out of the chambers. Trump continued his address after Green was removed from the chambers. And some Democratic lawmakers actually followed
Yes.
suit and walked out in the middle of Trump's address. And some others skipped the speech entirely. Now,
Yes.
Democratic Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan, who's a first-term senator from that state, she called for voters to get more involved in politics in her 10-minute rebuttal
Absolutely.
speech, a much shorter speech. And she went on to say, "It's easy to be exhausted, but America needs you now more than ever. If
Yes.
previous generations had not fought for this democracy, where would we be today?" But, political rhetoric is going to meet head-on with political reality as a March 14th deadline looms for
Yes.
Congress to pass legislation to keep the government running and avoid a shutdown. Democrats have vowed to fight the deep cuts that are proposed in this budget by Republicans.
Absolutely. 14th
to
of March
Medicare.
is going to be that showdown. I'm afraid I have to interrupt you there, Chris, but we're going to keep continuing this conversation maybe more on the 14th of March. But, let me just now focus on where Donald Trump named India. In fact, he said that in so many words when he talked about tariffs. And that's the big focus, and that's the big question we are having today on India Global. On your screens right now, can India still avert the reciprocal tariffs that he spoke about? He said 2nd of April because he didn't want anybody to think that he was actually talking about an April Fool's joke. He also went on to say that the second question is that does it also mean, and it highlights the kind of divide that exists in American politics when it comes to tariffs. And the third important part, as far as why we need to discuss in greater detail, is that are they now something that may or may not have the complete backing of the Republicans? Lastly, the drill baby drill campaign of Donald Trump, is it really going to bring down inflation? That's something that's core for his voters. And let's put that out to the panelists joining me today. We have Mr. David K. Johnston, Mr. Vivek Mishra. Thank you so much, both of you. Let me start by asking you, Mr. Mishra, who's Deputy Director at the ORF. Vivek, your first thoughts on the fact that President Trump didn't mince his words. He very categorically talked about the auto tariffs, said it's 100% plus. The reciprocal tariffs, he said it's going to kick in less than 4 weeks. How do you see that, and what do you think could be India's response to something like that?
Clearly, it's going to be an arduous path for any country dealing with the United States, which has a surplus of the kind that India has. And I think the path forward is going to be one of negotiation. But the good thing is that if you look at the joint statement of India and the US, there is a willingness and a political intent on both sides to carve out a framework through which both sides can work, and by the fall of this year, come up with a BTA, which is a bilateral trade agreement. Now, the important thing to my mind is that, Trump agreeing to a bilateral framework is a big deal, especially with countries that he thinks is taking advantage of. I think he's increasingly carving India in that light. because and that hints to me that the negotiations are going to be tough. But I think from India's perspective, it is going to be a mix of conciliation and red lines. There are certain sectors like agriculture where India will draw clear red lines and say to the United States where we can conciliate, where we cannot. So I think it's going to be a mixed approach going forward, but it's going to be days of hard negotiation, certainly.
It really will be days of hard negotiations. Harley-Davidson, an issue that has been brought about several times from the American side, is likely to feature in those talks. David, let me ask you this, in terms of the tariff rhetoric, we've been talking about it several times. The world is talking about it several times now. There's also a trade war that started with China and Canada. Where do you think the India-America negotiations may go? Because it's unlikely they may go down the path of Canada or China, but where do you think those negotiations will end up being? Because Donald Trump mentioned that from the floor of the House. So he is, of course, going to now follow through with what he just said.
Well, Donald started off by claiming India has 100% tariff on American cars. That's not true. The tariff on luxury cars was 125%, and India recently reduced it to 70%. And the tariff on Harley-Davidson motorcycles made in the U.S. was also cut, I believe, to 40%. Donald is very focused on his belief, his utterly mistaken belief, that tariffs are paid by the country on who they're imposed. They're actually paid by consumers in the country where items are bought. But clearly, he's going to try and get Harley-Davidson in particular an even lower tariff on its motorcycles. Very much Donald's beliefs about economics, and he was given a degree in economics at the college he went to. I don't think he earned it, but he was given one. Is a 17th century view of economics, mercantilism, which was the belief of the British when they put India under their boot.
Okay, this is not about Donald Trump's degree, neither is it about Donald Trump's view. It is about where will those trade negotiations really end up being in terms of give and take. And that's what trade negotiations really are, Vivek, aren't they? It's about a mix of give and take. It's about being able to thrash out differences to identify some sort of a common minimum program in terms of trade. And where do you see that happening? And the reason why I'm asking you this is because, he's unleashed a war. He started a war with two of his biggest trade partners. Surely he can't carry the same view when it comes to negotiations with India.
Clearly, let me take off from where David left. I think, clearly some of the numbers that Trump cites are way off. I think it's more bluster in terms of what he wants to. I mean, it's also a political signaling and a cornering approach to countries that his team will talk to. So I think when the two sides will sit on the table, things will be a little different than it seems it is. That's one. The second is, both the political intent from the Indian side has been pretty clear as opposed to the first term when we went for retaliatory tariffs. And, we could go for retaliatory tariffs even this time. But I think what we did in our budget signaled that we are ready to
Indeed.
cut our prices in sectors like EV, etc., is a good sort of pathway forward.
In fact, we were very proactive in terms of trying to address some of those concerns that the Trump administration has. Let me now move from the tariff part to the other part, which is the energy piece, to what is very central to the Trump administration's idea of economic policy. And David, the question then is that, he's been talking about drill, baby, drill on several occasions. He has a completely different view in terms of how he wants to take his energy policies going forward. How do you see that impacting the India-US relationship?
Well, the United States right now is the world's largest oil producer. For every 5 barrels the Saudis produce, America produces 7. And so the big concern I think Donald will have relative to India is his opposition to electric vehicles and his desire to get more exports of American vehicles. And that's the key thing they're going to negotiate. It's important to understand that the U.S., from India's perspective, is its largest trading partner, or second largest. But for the U.S., it's only about 7th and about 2.5% of U.S. trade. So the interests here are quite different between the two countries. India's efforts to build up muscle and capital for its own energy industries and expand its refining, if it wants to do that, will be one of the things that Trump will, in a counterintuitive way, probably have problems with, because he wants more oil exports from the United States.
Okay, a quick closing comments, Vivek, quickly on the energy mix.
I think energy is going to be very crucial. If you look at the joint statement which was recently released, it clearly states that the United States intends to be the largest supplier of energy to India. How that happens remains a wild card. There is definitely a pumping up of energy on the US side, but the supply chains remains an issue. And if it crosses Middle East, there's a lot of fragility that it rides upon.
All right, we leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking out the time speaking to me on India Global on an issue I'm afraid we're going to keep revisiting. The bottom line, viewers, as far as Trump's address is concerned, in his maiden second-term address to Congress, Donald Trump has touted the unprecedented progress of his administration, claiming he has achieved more in 43 days than most presidents managed in 8 years. From reasserting free speech to promising a war on high egg prices, Donald Trump's rhetoric was as bold as it was brash. He was declared a comeback like no other, vowing to put America back on top with tariffs, border control, and a sharp attack on Biden's leadership. But beneath the surface of this fiery speech seems to be some sort of a game of blame shifting and possibly polarizing rhetoric. He portrayed his policies as a swift return to common sense. Yet, the cost of this vision, a society cleaved by cultural wars, where competence is measured by politics, not skill. As Trump continues to fan the flames, it remains to be seen what common sense American policymakers will apply when Trump once again mentions about taking over Greenland and Canada. In fact, when US President Donald Trump spoke about the need to build America's Golden Dome to protect against incoming threats, he was referring to a ballistic missile defense shield among the most sophisticated and the most complicated to design, develop, and in fact even operationalize. Israel has one which it used to ward off Iranian ballistic missiles. So does America, but Trump wants it to be bigger and better. What really is this all about? Vishnu Som gets that detailed report for you.
When the US President Donald Trump spoke about the need to build America's Golden Dome to protect against incoming threats, he was referring to a ballistic missile defense shield. Surface-to-air missiles like this actually intercept incoming ballistic missiles before they hit their target. Now, America has a missile defense shield among the most sophisticated in the world, but what Trump wants to do is large-size it. Now, that's not going to be easy to do given the size of the United States. It has to be designed, developed, and operationalized in parts. Some of it is already in operation. Israel has a similar system, which it used recently, ward off Iranian ballistic missiles. So does America, but have an option that is really viable? Let me bring you a few details. Now, America's ballistic missile defense shield, which Trump calls the Golden Dome, has several key systems designed to detect, track, and intercept incoming ballistic missiles at various stages of flight, boost, mid-course, and terminal phases. There are many systems at play. The basic goal is to shoot down a missile before it hits its target. It relies on this, the ground-based mid-course defense system, or GMD. That system is the backbone of US homeland defenses against intercontinental ballistic missiles, which China and North Korea have. It uses ground-based interceptors like what you see over there, deployed at Fort Greely, Alaska, and at the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. There's also the Aegis ballistic missile defense. That's a sea and land-based system. Aegis employs Navy destroyers and cruisers to engage short to intermediate range ballistic missiles. Then there is the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, or THAAD. That's a mobile land-based system that intercepts short and medium and also intermediate range ballistic missiles during their terminal phase, or the last phase of their flight, using hit-to-kill technology. It hits an incoming missile to ensure that it is destroyed. There's also the Patriot Advanced Capability 3 system, PAC-3. It's used, in fact, by several armies and air forces around the world. This system focuses on shorter range ballistic missiles and air threats in the terminal phase. It's used in Ukraine as well. Now, all of this is brought together by a space-based infrared system called SBIRS and radars. Detection relies on the space-based system of satellites for early warning of missile launches, paired with a host of ground-based radars. Remember, if you don't have the sensors, you can't have the shooters. Without these sensors, detecting the launch of an incoming ballistic missile system becomes difficult, if not impossible.
All right, on that note, a quick break. We come back with more stories on the other side.
What's that?
Have you only just noticed? I got it last year.
No, not that. That.
Looks like a nationwide card.
Yeah, I thought you'd know that, Dad.
Why them and not me?
Just feels good to bank somewhere that's owned by its members, rather than someone like you.
Missed me.
Because we're owned by our members, we put members first. Nationwide, a good way to bank.
Quidco gives you cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco. Sign up and start saving today. Visit quidco.com.
Whatever you need to ask about cancer, Macmillan's free support line is just a call away.
Hello, Macmillan.
Whether it's money...
Am I going to lose my job?
Getting on with life.
Can I still go abroad? Get insurance?
Or just need someone to listen.
How do I tell them?
Our specialist advisors are here to help as often as you need them. Whatever you need to ask, cancer, money, life, call us now on 0808 134 1000.
With PlusNet, great value broadband isn't just about price, it's also about speed. This kind of speed. Oh, there's a router. Get full fibre from $24.99 a month with speeds up to 900 megabits. Fast broadband you can rely on. That's a plus. Call us now or visit plus.net for our best price. Offer ends 5th of March.
Now I'm retired, I want to make sure my grandson is protected, which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK. Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a £135 gift card.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
When Tony passed, we wanted to celebrate him his way. All he ever spoke about was bite this, bite that. I'll never forget our first date. Huge grin on his face as he rode up on that big noisy thing. And that's exactly the way he'd want to be remembered.
At Co-op Funeral Care, we know everyone is different. That's why we offer funeral plans to funeral services that are personal, every step of the way.
Our first year as a family flew by, and now I want to make sure he'll be financially protected for all his birthdays to come. That's why I'm calling Smart Insurance.
Just like families, not all life insurance is the same. That's why we offer the Smart Family Guarantee. We guarantee a straightforward application process, award-winning service you can trust, and cover from day one. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
To get a free quote today, call our specialist UK team or visit smartinsurance.co.uk.
This is India Global. We turn our attention to Israel's Shin Bet security agency, which has admitted to failing to prevent Hamas's deadly October 7, 2023 attack. It acknowledged that it missed key warning signs. Agency chief Ronan Barr stated that had the agency acted differently in the years prior and on the night of the attack, the massacre could have been avoided. An internal investigation revealed that despite intelligence on Hamas's plans, first identified in 2018, then again in 2022, Shin Bet did not recognize them as an imminent threat. The agency also pointed to broader failures, including Israeli government policies that allowed Hamas to strengthen its arsenal, secure its funding, and expand its influence to cause the damage that it eventually did. Staying with the region, Arab leaders have now approved a $53 billion reconstruction plan for Gaza at an emergency summit in Cairo, positioning it as an alternative to a controversial U.S. proposal that suggested relocating Palestinians. The plan prioritizes emergency relief, infrastructure rebuilding, long-term economic development. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi emphasized that the initiative aims to ensure Palestinians remain on their land and comes in complete contrast to what was the Trump Gaza plan. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres later affirmed the UN's readiness to fully support this effort, as I said, which stands in complete contrast to Trump's Gaza plan.
إننا في المملكة نرفض بشكل قاطع المساس بحقوق الشعب الفلسطيني المشروعة، سواء من خلال سياسات الاستيطان أو ضم الأراضي الفلسطينية أو السعي إلى تهجير الفلسطينيين من أراضيهم. كما نشدد على حق الشعب الفلسطيني في تقرير مصيره على أرضه وإقامة دولته المستقلة على حدود العام 1967 وعاصمتها القدس الشرقية.
All right, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Global. Thanks so much for watching.
Sometimes there's things a man cannot know. Engines won't turn and the train won't leave.
When Tony passed, we wanted to celebrate him his way. All he ever spoke about was bite this, bite that. I'll never forget our first date. Huge grin on his face as he rode up on that big noisy thing. And that's exactly the way he'd want to be remembered.
At Co-op Funeral Care, we know everyone is different. That's why we offer funeral plans to funeral services that are personal, every step of the way.
Who do I trust for business insurance?
If you need business insurance, join nearly 1 million customers who trust
This is an important message for people living with diabetes from people living with diabetes.
When I was experiencing the symptoms of diabetes, I didn't know what was going on.
You go on the internet and it's full of horror stories.
I didn't understand about carbs, I didn't understand about blood glucose levels.
That's why the support I get as a Diabetes UK member is so important.
You can become a Diabetes UK member for just £3 a month. When you do, you'll receive a practical guide specific to your type of diabetes and a copy of Balance magazine 4 times a year. Plus, you'll help support research that could lead to better treatments for all types of diabetes.
As members, we're all working it out together.
Call 0800 144 5410 or go online to become a Diabetes UK member for just £3 a month. Join us now because membership can help you learn to live better with diabetes.
Family life. It's made of ups and downs and those little moments. But should the unthinkable happen to you? Life insurance from Legal & General can help look after monthly bills, the roof over their heads, childcare costs, and most importantly, your family. Because no one protects more families in the UK than us. Premiums start from £5 a month and they never rise. Plus there's a £100 gift card after you apply. Legal & General. Ensure life goes on.
Now I'm retired, I can spend more time with my grandson. I'm proud of him and want to help any way I can. Which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK.
Well, that's good to know.
UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000.
And that money can help with my funeral costs or even be used as a gift. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a £135 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
Thanks, Mum, for everything.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team on 0800 158 552 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
Former Finance Minister and Congress MP P. Chidambaram speaks exclusively on NDTV, says delimitation will upset relationship between states. Tamil Nadu all-party meeting on delimitation, unanimous resolution passed against delimitation. Tamil Nadu BJP chief K. Annamalai has promised proportional representation of states. BJP has also said that centre will bring amendment for states' representation. Kannada actor Rania Rao caught smuggling 14 kg gold. Actor's father says Ranya's not living with us. Actor's father also says that law will do its job. Major political drama over Arvind Kejriwal's VVIP Vipassana. Mega meditation trip to Punjab. 100-car convoy for Vipassana. Congress, Akali have targeted the Punjab government. Aurangzeb Rao explodes Uttar Pradesh to Maharashtra. The Aurangzeb fire Abu Azmi suspended from assembly. Yogi Adityanath meanwhile has trained guns at Samajwadi Party in UP Assembly. Trump speaks on Russia-Ukraine war, says he's working to end conflict, and he also says it's time to end the senseless war. Well, an all-party meeting called by Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has unanimously rejected the parliamentary constituency delimitation process expected to take place in 2026. Joining me now to talk about this is former Finance Minister and Congress leader P. Chidambaram. Thank you, Mr. Chidambaram, for your time, for speaking to NDTV. My first question, sir, the all-party meeting called by Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has passed a resolution today requesting the centre to give an assurance that if delimitation is done, it should be done based on the 1971 population census from 2026 to the next 30 years. Now, delimitation as an exercise has not seen any increase in the legislative seats since 1973, having been frozen. Now, an administrative exercise such as this is important in a democracy for fair representation. So, it has to happen at some point. What would your comments be in this regard?
Representation is important. Representation based on delimitation may serve one principle, but it may not serve another principle. There are two principles which govern Indian state. First is democracy, the second is federalism. Now, maybe one citizen, one vote, and proportionate representation, and on the basis of that seats are allotted to states may serve the principle of democracy, but it won't serve the principle of federalism. It is not without reason that in 1971, they froze the number of seats allotted to each state in parliament. Since then, 54 years have passed. States have developed at different paces. The population of several states has stabilized. The population of some states have not stabilized, and they continue to rise rapidly.
Right. Mr. Chidambaram, the DMK's proposal in this regard is to urge the centre to use older data sets for delimitation. But, sir, wouldn't that go against the principle of fair representation, considering a lot, including population of states, has changed in the last many years?
It will indeed go against the one citizen, one vote principle. I'm not denying that. But all states were given 1971 as the extent of representation in Parliament, and all states have had an equal right to progress and stabilize their population. If some states have fallen behind in controlling the total fertility rate and in controlling or stabilizing the population, can that be a ground to say we must have increased representation, and the states which have done well in family control and stabilization of the population must suffer? Would that be a fair argument?
On NEP, Tamil Nadu has yet again raised its insistence on a two-language formula. But at a time when we are witnessing mobility and movement of people from several states in and out of Tamil Nadu, wouldn't such a move be seen as parochial or depriving people of the opportunity to learn a new language?
Not at all. People who move will learn the language of the state or the region to which they move. There are millions of Tamils who are settled in Maharashtra, Gujarat, Delhi, Bengal, Uttar Pradesh. They learn Marathi, Gujarati, Hindi, Bengali. They learn. Out of necessity, they will learn. If migrant workers move from the north to the south, they learn a smattering of Tamil or Kannada or Telugu. If they move for a long term, they learn the local language. I can point out hundreds of Biharis and Jharkhandis and Oriya people who have moved to Tamil Nadu, who are engaged in construction, in restaurants, in cane cutting. They have learned the language to the extent they need to know. They may not learn to the extent of writing or reading, but they will speak and understand Tamil or Telugu. Therefore, necessity is the best driver of migrant population. We are not talking about the migrant population. We are talking about the fact that if children have to learn 3 languages, it must be applied uniformly throughout India. But the fact is, in many of the northern Hindi-speaking states, you have much better exposure to these states than I have. You have traveled through these states. Tell me what proportion of children, say up to 15 years of age, what proportion of children in rural Hindi states, Hindi-speaking states, and even in urban areas of Hindi-speaking states speak English? I mean, my empirical evidence shows less than 5% can speak English. You know why? Because most of the government schools in Hindi-speaking states don't appoint English teachers. Not to speak about appointing a Tamil or a Telugu teacher. The Hindi-speaking states, by and large, follow a one-language policy. The common language of speaking is Hindi. The ruling language, official language is Hindi. The medium of instruction is Hindi. The subject they study as a language is Hindi. Now, they are growing up in a one-language environment. Where do they speak English? In the few schools which have English teachers, they don't speak English outside the classroom. So that is why they are not proficient in English at all. It is the same